currently outside of Aquaman that you're currently enjoying in the 52?
Um, personally, I would say I'm confused. I think it's the Batman, which is dealing with the Talons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have been enjoying that one. I think the art is really good. I think a problem with the 52 is that they've had way too many Batman related titles that have come out. I haven't enjoyed Detective Comics as much as I had hoped I would.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I have been enjoying Batman. It's probably my favorite Batman related title that's out there. I what else have I been enjoying? Birds of Prey has been, pretty consistently okay, in my opinion. Um, I've enjoyed Wonder Woman for the most part. Batwoman, I liked Batwoman before the reboot, and they basically kept on with her characterization through the reboot, which I think was a really wise choice. Uh, so I've been absolutely adoring her book. I think that she's got really good art, and I think that the story arc has been pretty consistently good throughout. The last issue was a little bit not as on the same caliber, but most of all, it's been incredible. And I mean, just for the artwork alone, you have to read it. Trying to think what else in particular. I've enjoyed Green Arrow, surprisingly more than I thought I would, especially the first 6 issues. It wasn't necessarily a fantastic story arc within that 6 issues, but it was enjoyable. I'm trying to think. There's a handful of other ones that I've enjoyed. Certain issues or 2 issues together. But for the most part, it's just been a constant state of, okay, my plan, my goal is the stories that I've started out with on issue 1 is to continue on with them until the first year has gone through, get the first 12 of them, and make my judgment on which ones I'm going to keep reading and which ones I'm going to drop by that point. So.
Okay. Well, just as a random thought here, what did you think of if you get it? What did you think of iVampire?
iVampire, I have not gotten iVampire. I've heard really good things about it, and I've also heard not so good things about it. People, it seems like, either really, really like it or really, really don't like it. It's been something I've been wanting to get into, so I'm gonna hopefully when they come out with the trade, I'll pick that up. But again, I unfortunately was one that I did not get into off the bat. So I'm gonna try and wait and see where I can go from there.
Well, I can tell you this because I do have like the first 6 issues,
Yeah,
and you were saying that you've heard real good things about it on the one hand and real bad things about it on the
yeah.
other. I kind of encompass both sides there
Okay, yeah.
because of the 52 is my favorite comic.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, I think it has some of the worst art,
Yeah,
interior wise,
yeah.
because it puts me a lot in the mind of people like Jai Lee and Tim Bradstreet
Oh,
and
oh,
folks like that
yeah.
who I don't think draw.
Right,
At least Greg Land, even when he gets slammed as someone that traces.
right,
So even minimally speaking, he's still drawing.
right.
These guys, I feel, and lady, I believe, because I believe it's a lady that does iVampire.
Hmm.
Um, to me, they just take out a camera and um, and and throw some Photoshop in there and
Yeah,
call it a day.
yeah. I mean, I've never been a fan of that type of style. I think one of the great things that comic books possession is that it is, a graphic, medium. And when part of the artistic and talent that comes through and part of what makes that story so fantastic is that someone is actually able to create that,
Hmm.
from their mind and translate it into something that is visual. Um, So I've seen a couple, of those, photorealist photoshopped, type storylines before in other, more independent work, and it's nice to look at sometimes, but it's not what I consider to be true comic book art.
Well, to me, and this might be me being a little bit of a purist here,
mm-hmm.
but what I find irksome about folks like that is I think of young people that are sort of trying to break into the business,
right?
And they're studying up on their perspective, they're studying up on their foreshortening, on their facial expressions and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, somebody that's drawing a check is dusting off their Polaroid or their Nikon in order to say, well, here you go, editor, I'm done.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
Oh, no, I completely agree. I think that, there's so many young artists that are trying to break into this and, have the talent to do it, that I don't see why, something like the photorealist art that's become, popular in some sects of comic books have, done this. I think that, I'm more of a purist. I personally would like to see, part of the reason that I like the new Daredevil comic that's come out is just that it has such an old school style of comic book art in it that it's just really refreshing to see, and that's what I like to see in my comic books. Not some sort of, someone taking a picture of me like, oh, okay, this kind of works, here you go.
All right, well, I'm gonna have to preface this by saying, by asking for you not to hate me on my next comment.
Okay.
But I cannot stand the artwork on that Daredevil.
Really?
I really can't. To me, and it's almost for the same reason that you stated that you liked it.
Okay.
Because,
yeah.
Because it's that old school stuff. But to me it's all the bad stuff from old school.
Yeah.
Now, if old school was Neil Adams, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
If old school is some aspects of Jack Kirby, I'm okay with that. But Paulo Rivera, who I think does the majority of the artwork there, I like it. I like his work when he's doing paintings.
Right.
But when he's drawing, it's like, oh my God! I know I'm missing out on some great stories because I just can't bring myself to look at his art.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, there's a lot of people who definitely, I feel like, are, not only are they against, like, old school type artwork in their comics, but there's just so many different, like, elements that go into that. Like, there's so many, leaders of that age, and they all had very unique drawing styles. And I personally enjoy, I'm trying to think, there's someone who tried to, like, go back into that style, and they just did not do a really good job. It was some story by Dark Horse that tried to do it, and I just did not get into it. But for me, Daredevil has a very emotional and old school impact, because that was my brother's favorite character. So basically, the first couple of comic books I ever read were from, the early to mid 80s, dealing with Daredevil. And just to see, like, that type of style come back on the page for me is very nostalgic for me. But I can definitely see how it's not necessarily your cup of tea. I've talked to other people who've said the same thing as well. So.
Well, I think where I stand artistically on things, regardless of how new or how dated the material is, I think I tend to lean more towards the illustrative as opposed to the straight up storytelling type.
Yeah.
And so I tend to not care for the Riveras, the Marcos Martins.
Right.
I don't know. Steve Epting is okay, Um, but I tend to lean more towards folks like Jim Lee,
Yeah.
Frank Quietly, and to me those guys are not in any way similar to each other.
Right.
But I like their styles: Michael Golden, Art Adams, so on and so
Absolutely.
forth.
Yeah.
But to me, as far as storytelling goes, you basically get me from A to E without making me scratch my head, and you've done all right.
Yeah.
I don't need everybody to be the next Frank Miller or
Right.
Will Eisner or something like that to keep me entranced with their comic book.
Absolutely.
The thing that I had blanked on, I remember what it was I was going to say. Um, Geoff Johns.
Yes.
As it relates to 52, because I know a lot of this, much of it, if not most of it, is his doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few things that I will say positive about him.
Yes.
But the one thing that I will give him with this 52 is he's made it possible for me to like characters again. Not that I necessarily do like them again, but he's made it possible for me to like characters again um, um, that I had written off a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
And because Hal Jordan Green Lantern to me prior to 52, prior to the DC 52, to me was a killer, just like Jean Grey.
Right.
The Flash, I never thought should have been brought back from the dead.
Yeah.
But now that it's post 52, I don't see that Flash as that other Flash. So so that's a good thing too.
Yeah.
So Geoff Johns, he'll get a thumbs up from me at least as far as the big picture goes. Now, as far as the smaller snapshots within that picture, I still don't like them. I have talked to a few people about Aquaman and our views, I'll say, varied quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, I am definitely not a Geoff Johns fan at all. I think he doesn't know how, like, he writes, for the most part, his male characters like females, and he just does not know how to write female characters at all. But I will agree, because he's been in charge of writing Aquaman, and I think he's done a superb job with that. I think the Green Lantern with Hal Jordan has been really good, which is why it's interesting to me that the character is so incredibly different in Justice League, because they really do not read like the same character, let alone the same person. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone who reads DC Comics has a love-hate relationship with Geoff Johns just because they know that he is basically their poster boy right now when it comes to their creative team. And the stuff that they like from him, they like a lot, and the majority of everything else, they just can't stand. And I just think that even before the 52 reboot, it was like that, and it's just continued on. I think he took a large step by fronting the majority of the reboot, so I have to give him credit for that. And yeah. It'll be interesting to see how he progresses with it, and if at some point, once his characters that he has made that are cool again, like Green Lantern or Aquaman or something like that, if he reverts back and tries to ruin them for us all. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, let me play a little bit of devil's advocate on this particular topic.
Yeah, sure thing.
As it relates to certain characters not speaking in the voice that people are used to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any of that? Well, in particular with the Justice League.
Yeah.
The Justice League in and of itself is almost, this first arc is almost in a way kind of a prequel story. Because it starts off with being 5 years in the past when all these characters are fairly new to their abilities and so on and so forth. So
right.
you know, Green Lantern and Flash and a number of them would have to grow into the characters that you remember,
Oh, absolutely.
as opposed to being those characters right off the bat.
Oh, I think I think it was a very wise move for him to put the characters at different points in their arc. I mean, obviously, Superman and Wonder Woman are basically just fresh off, and doing their superhero thing for the first time. You have Flash and Green Lantern who have some sort of relationship already connected, but it's still young. They both seem to be, pretty not like new at what they're doing. And then you have Batman who appears to be, having at this for a little bit of a time already, when everything gets established. And I think that was really a unique aspect. And I really hope that that transformation does occur. With the characters. I think that would be very interesting for the characters to evolve to the point that we see Hal Jordan go through that whole process to become the Green Lantern that he is, character-wise, in the first issue of Green Lantern. So yeah, we have to see what Geoff has in store for us down the road.
Yeah, I know. As an aside, I had picked up the first issue of Aquaman,
Mm-hmm.
and and most of the people that were talking about it were saying things very similar to what you said.
Yeah.
And I read it, and I was like, I don't get it. Because okay, one of the things that somebody was saying was someone had confronted Aquaman, and Aquaman stuck his trident in this guy's truck and tossed it away like it was nothing. I'm like,
Yeah,
I already knew Aquaman was strong.
Yeah, I don't
So
remember that. Yeah.
so I'm like, and then then the thing about, well, what about, how about when Aquaman is going to a fishing a seafood place,
Right.
and he's
Right.
actually ordering some seafood.
Right.
I never thought that Aquaman necessarily was a vegan.
Yeah. No.
You know,
Uh,
it's just one of those things. Incidentally, I bought the sixth issue too,
uh-huh.
but the thing was, since I don't really care for aquatic characters too much anyway,
Right.
the one shining spot to me in Black as Night was Mera,
Yeah.
and if anything, I would have wanted to see Mera get her own book.
Yeah.
She just wanted to buy dog food, man.
That's true.
Did not go well.
And the other issues, and Mara is actually a very central figure throughout, especially in issues 2, 3, and 4, and a little bit in 5.
Yep, I'm gonna have to take your word for that.
Yeah, she's comes out very strong. The first real mission, so to speak, is with her and Arthur. For Aquaman, for me, I've never really read any Aquaman. I'd seen him when he, be in appearances and different, team lineups and stuff like that. But I'd never really known Aquaman as his own character before. And I was one of those people that, basically thought of him as, he was in the Super Friends, this sort of bumbling idiot that's the, laughing stock of the DC universe.
Yeah,
When really,
about him now.
Yeah, well, Aquaman is really more like Namor than anything. He has a lot of conflict that goes on with him for being, the king of Atlantis, but at the same time, not being fully appreciated by his people because he is half human. And I think that just the fact that the first 2 comics were so self-realizing about what the mythology of of Aquaman is. I think it was just brilliant. When the cops are like, "Oh, do you need a glass of water?" and stuff, and he's just like, "No." There's just so many. I think a lot of those interactions that take place with the different people, especially in the first issue, are supposed to be the fan base, even fans of comic books, what they think of Aquaman, because most people don't know much about Aquaman, and it's sort of confronting that and certain elements, certain ways pushing the fourth wall a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
So
God,
I
knows I
give
hated it
it
in
credit
She-Hulk.
for, huh? What was that?
No, I was just saying, God knows I hated that element in She-Hulk.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely, a taste in storytelling for certain people, and I personally like it. I think it's entertaining, and I think it's a witty element that certain comic books can get away with, and certain comic books can't. And I think that they did a pretty nice job. I enjoyed it. The first issue, I was just like, the first issue was just so incredibly surprising to me because I had come off of reading Batman and like Detective Comics and Action Comics, because that was like all the first week stuff that had come out, and then you have this kind of bright bubble of joy when it was Aquaman that I was not expecting to have. So it was just like that kind of connection originally, and then the story just progressed, and it had such great artwork in it. I liked the artwork a lot, and just the story got really interesting really fast. So I just fell in love with Aquaman, and it's something that I have to say is probably my favorite element of the 52 thus far.
Yeah, well, I think when I bought the first issue, in part it was because of the art. Because Ivan Reyes, I think, I've enjoyed his work and pretty much ever since Black as Night.
Absolutely.
So kudos to the art. I wish he could have drawn a different character, but hey, that's just me.
Yeah.
Anyway, in terms of, I guess, leaving on a high note, I just want to say, thank you for, agreeing to do this.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. I love talking about comic books and everything, so anytime you would like to, I'd be more than willing to come back and discuss what's going on in the world of comics and all that stuff.
Okay, and Sam, hopefully I'll have more Marvel stuff to bring up to get you more, included in the conversation.
I'm only really reading Aquaman in terms of DC right now, so it's a little out of my depth, but if you ever want to talk Deadpool, I am always willing to.
Oh, okay. Okay. So anyway, I thank you both again.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can do this again soon.
Absolutely.
Sounds
I'd
good.
be more than happy to.
All right. Well, you ladies take care.
Same to
You
you.
too.
Thanks again.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.